Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So, Cryptic Studios have added to the Zen store the storyteller artifacts and even the set to go with them. Now in this video I'd like to actually go over these artifacts and see if their price value in the Zen market is actually worth the cost for the benefits that they can actually give you. I'll also go over how these artifacts are actually good and why. First up, if we go to the Zen market here and we go to the events tab, you can see we can purchase the Storyteller Artifact Choice Pack. With that, we can also buy the set that goes with it, the Sash of Embellishments and the Scarf of Embellishments. Now this set itself, it's okay for a tank, still not the best. It's okay for a healer, still not the best. And for a DPS, you're better off with any other set which will bonus to your actual damage. You can see I have the set here, and it only grants you extra ability score points, but as a tank you ideally would get like the +2 to constitution ability score rather than what you would only get there being only 1 from this, and then from the actual scarf you only get 1 there instead of the actual 5 you could obtain from any other set that's of that high item level. And that set of 3 there, your powers having a chance to deal additional unresistible weapon damage, that is abysmally small. You'll barely notice that impacting your damage at all. So yes, you're much better off with any other set. For example, as a tank here, I like to run with the erratic drift globe set there, being the reflective armaments. Anyway, these books. Now you can see here, this is my main tank build, and I'm running with 2 of the books. As a DPS, you also want to do this. You want to run with at least 2 of those books. Ideally 3 of them. Now, the reason for this, if you go and have a look at actually the set that it gives you, when you have 2 of the set, you basically gain increased power and hit points. And if you manage to go ahead to have 3 of the set, it gives you an additional hit for weapon damage whenever you deal a crit. And this can stack up to a considerable amount of damage, and it's a very good buff for AoE. It's basically exactly the same damage bonus you gain from like the Lost Mouth set. It's decent and it racks up the damage over time. And yes, as a DPS you ideally would have 3 of these books. But when you're running a high-end game content, then generally you need to run other artifacts that buff the overall damage to the party, let's say like Heart of the Black Dragon, Halaster's Blast Scepter, etc. There's many of them out there. Now you ask, why am I running with 2 of these books, and why not aren't I running with other artifacts, let's say like the Erratic Drift Globe, that have 300 item level, as these books actually only have 150 item level. I could just as well have artifacts like the Golden Memories, giving me that extra HP and power and more stats, or the Sword of Zariel, also giving that same HP and power. And even to top it off, there's also the Halaster's Blast Scepter. Now, yes, all 3 of these artifacts, giving that HP and power, are very good artifacts that you could slot, but they are just not as good as slotting 2 of these books. Now, you ask why? Well, these books, when you look, see there, you have 2 of set down there at the bottom. I'll zoom it in for you guys. You can see you grant that extra power. Now, this power isn't the key factor. It's the hit points. For every book you have, you gain an extra 10,000 hit points. If you go ahead and actually see the stats on this book, they also give 3,000 hit points. So this book, when I have 2 of them slotted, gives me a total of 13,000 hit points. Not to mention having the second book also there, giving me another 13,000 hit points. Meaning I'm gaining 26,000 hit points just for having 2 of these books slotted. And yes, this is a good bit better than just having the 12,000 hit points you would get from slotting 2 of these artifacts. Now, however, there is a catch. Yes, these higher item level artifacts, like the Sword of Zariel, or the Golden Memories, or even the Halaster's Blast Scepter, they do give 3,000 power each. Now, the Storyteller Journals, however, will only give 1,000 power each, plus their stats that they give you. But overall, the result from the set bonus of having these artifacts ends up that you gain a whole lot more stats from these books than from the higher item level artifacts. However, there is a catch. If you are not in dire need of that hit points and you can survive fairly easily throughout any fights and whatnot, you're not doing super end game content, then these books, you may as well replace them with ones which would give you bonus power and give you more damage. This being if you're a DPS. As a tank, yes, these books are absolutely the best because as a tank you want more HP. As a healer, they aren't the best. You'd be better off with the 300 item level ones with the extra power. However, you may also need that HP for endgame content, so actual survivability, and therefore these books are better. Now, for DPS also, when you're running a trial like Zariel or Tower of the Mad Mage, where you need maximum single target damage, ideally you would have your daily power where you would deal a whole lot of damage every minute, because in a trial scenario, every minute you call artifacts. You call artifacts, everybody uses them, and you try and deal maximum amount of damage within that period of time where that boss is debuffed with all those artifacts, and you can deal a whole lot more damage. Now, if you're in the fortunate position to be able to choose to have a personal artifact, you might want to consider running the Envenomed Storyteller Journal. This artifact is also one of the best for AoE damage and just when you're questing and such, since it can give you that daily and you'll be able to cast it every minute and you'll be able to gain the action points. Because if you have these stories in these artifacts, you can see it will give you a bonus action points when you cast it, giving you a total of 35%. Thus, when you're in a trial and such, and you need to get that daily every minute, it can be quite hard, especially when there's mechanics and such, and you can't hit the boss all the time, then you may need this artifact to make sure you would have that daily every minute. Anyway, that aside, yes, these artifacts are really good, and they are absolutely currently best in slot for definitely tanks, and arguably in situations for DPS. Now, if we go to the Zen market here, you can see the price tag on them is, it's 1,500 Zen just for one of the artifacts. This meaning, if you wanted just two of them for, let's say, your tank build, you would have to buy two of these packs. However, players will be able to sell this box, so you should see it being posted on the auction house. So if you have lots of Astro Diamonds from your grinding and farming but you don't have the Zen, you can probably go and buy it from another player, whether it's by the auction house or trading with alternate items. So with a price tag of 1,500 Zen, is this worth it? Well, if you're just building up your character and you haven't managed to get to endgame yet, and you don't have these books, well, you might want to consider taking the opportunity to buy them now, as it's unlikely that they will come out with the Tales of Old event, especially since they are actually posting them in the Zen market. However, they could do a really mean move where they post these and then say the next month they come out with the Tales of Old event and nobody will need the artifacts anymore. That would just be cruel. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and buy one of these packs just to make sure that do these artifacts actually have these tails in them. So we'll go ahead and purchase one. That should pop in my inventory. Don't like spending that Zen, but gotta do it for the video, man. Anyway, if you go ahead and click on the box, you can see here we can claim one of these books. Now, you can see, yes, they do have all of the tails in them. So for this price of 1,500 Zen, you don't have to go through any of the grinding which we people had to do every day in that event. Although I'm sure many of you would prefer to be able to grind that out for free rather than having to spend that Zen. If we go ahead and look on the auction house, let's go ahead and see what the price people are putting these at. There you go, 4 million. Let's go ahead and undercut them by 1 AD, just like that. Yeah, it's kind of a dick move, but you know, marketing, whatever. So yeah, it's up to you guys if this price is actually worth it. I do say that yes, these artifacts are definitely worth it for a tank who's trying to get lots of HP. For a DPS, they're pretty good, especially with that Envenomed. You would ideally want 3 of those books to get that set where you deal extra damage on a crit. So yeah, actually one thing I didn't mention is these books also benefit you with extra bonuses to your ability scores. If you look way down at the bottom there, you can see they will increase your attributes by 1, giving you 1 to all of your ability scores, and then in essence also giving you more damage. And on top of that, hit points through constitution, etc., recharge speed and outgoing healing, all that. More ability score points we can get, the better. making these books even more appealing. They are unique to any other artifact out there since they actually have set bonuses. Anyway, I digress. I do really think these artifacts are the best you can currently get out there. They haven't made it any other ones that actually compete in the same level that these do. The 300 item level artifacts are good, but they're just not as good. Anyway, hopefully I presented this well. If I did, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.